Good day, Internet. This is DTNS Live for Friday, March 28th, 2025. From Studio Animal House, I'm Sarah Lane.
From Columbus, Ohio, I'm Robb Dunewood.
I'm the show's producer, Roger Chang.
Daily Tech News Show Live is made possible by its listeners. Thanks to all of you, including AB Puppy, Dale McCahey, Matt Zaglin, and our lifetime patron, Harish Menon.
Well, welcome everyone to DTNS Live. This is the show where we discuss the tech news to help us all understand it a little bit better. We were hoping Len Peralta could be with us today. He had a conflict, but he'll be with us next week. So, everybody just give Len good thoughts, as he draws the top tech stories in his mind. But I wanted to ask how everyone's doing, but I mostly want to know about you, Roger, because we did miss you earlier this week.
Yeah, like this past week was sort of a bust. I was supposed to do a bunch of things that ended up not happening because of
life
issues and medical issues and all sorts of things. So yeah, it wasn't what I expected, but it was all right.
Well, we're glad to have you back. Amos held down the fort.
You guys did
in the
great
best way
shows.
possible.
You guys did great shows.
In the best way possible. But yes, you were missed, and we're glad to have you back. Rob, how's life in your neck of the woods?
Life's doing good. Just trying to get to the weekend. It's 71 degrees outside, so it's nice and sunny. I just want to get out of the basement. I've been in the basement all day. I just want to go outside and enjoy the sunshine while I have 2 hours of it left.
Oh man, I had the same. I'm looking at my watch to tell me what the weather is outside because I haven't been outside today. 70 degrees, so you've got us beat. But yes, I hear that for everybody working for the weekend. Hopefully, we will help you get on into that weekend with a good old-fashioned dose of tech news. Let's get into it with the quick hits.
Google announced the Pixel 9a will launch on April 10th after delay due to a quality issue with the passive component. Google says that the issue affected a small number of devices, but enough to prompt the company to take action. The Pixel 9a starts at $499, has a Tensor G4 chip, 8 gigabytes of RAM, a 6.3-inch display, a 5100 milliamp battery, and an updated design with a plastic back and metal side rails.
Anthropic researchers say that their AI model Claude is very human-like. The team published papers recently, including one titled On the Biology of a Large Language Model, exploring the model's internal workings with comparisons to biological organisms. The findings raise some concerns about AI's ability to convincingly generate human-like responses, which some believe blurs the line too much between intelligence and sophisticated mimicry.
WhatsApp is rolling out a new feature that lets users add 15-second music clips to photo statuses and 60-second clips to video statuses. Similar to Instagram's music status and reminiscent of AIM and MySpace features, it's launching globally and will expand in the coming weeks. Users can access it via the music note icon in the status tab, selecting from millions of songs in WhatsApp's library for their photo, video, and text updates.
Oh man, I mean, I don't know if everybody else here had a MySpace account, but it was very important.
I had one.
What your music choice was. It said a lot about you at the time.
Said everything.
The Financial Times reports that the European Union still plans to fine Apple for App Store violations under the DMA, Digital Markets Act, but the penalty will reportedly be minimal to avoid escalating trade tensions with the U.S. Previous fines against Apple totaled billions under former EU competition chief Margrethe Vestager. The current official decision is expected before the end of this month.
Ubisoft is launching a new subsidiary dedicated to Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six, bringing together studios from Montreal, Quebec, Sherbrooke, Saint-Quentin, Barcelona, and Sofia. Tencent will invest 1.16 billion euros, around $1.25 billion, for a minority stake, while Ubisoft shifts focus to franchises like The Division and Ghost Recon. CEO Yves Guillemot sees the move as a key step in making Ubisoft more agile and ambitious.
Instagram is adding a 2x speed option for Reels, mirroring a similar feature that TikTok already has. As both platforms extend video lengths, the change is meant to keep users engaged by making longer content easier to watch. Who's got the time these days, right? This follows Instagram's pattern of borrowing from TikTok, like its remix feature, which resembles TikTok's duet tool. A Weibo-based leaker called Digital Chat Station, and when I'm talking about Weibo, yes, I'm talking about the social network, claims that Apple's upcoming foldable iPhone will feature a 4:3 aspect ratio, similar to iPads, and not similar to the smartphones that we mostly see today. This account previously said that the foldable phone was expected to have a 5.5 outer inch screen, a 7.8 inch inner display, which analyst Min-Chi Kuo corroborated, and he's one of the best Apple analysts out there, so it's looking likely that that's the case. Kuo also said that the phone will feature a titanium alloy casing, a metallic glass hinge, and a dual lens rear camera. Bloomberg's Mark Gurman predicted the device could launch as early as 2026, so it's not coming out this year. Unless something crazy happens, let's not expect it before about a year from now, with a price range between $2,000 to $2,500, which is very steep.
That is steep. I wonder about the form factor, because when you are using it and it's folded, it is not going to feel like a phone. And I think that a lot of folks who like for devices like the Galaxy Fold, they like the fact that when it's in candy bar style, it still feels like a phone, and they can still use it. They can one thumb it. They can do those kind of things. This won't necessarily be that. I'm trying to think, is it the Microsoft device that this reminds me of? That it's thicker and and it not as long. I can't remember which
Moto
device
Z,
I'm thinking.
the little is it the clamshell?
Not the clamshell, but I think Microsoft actually had some type of Android foldable that when you folded it, it might have even been called the fold. I can't remember the name of it. They've had so many things, but it was just not a regular phone.
Oh, the Surface
factor.
Duo 2.
Yeah, I cannot remember the name of it, but I do remember that when you folded it, it just didn't feel like a phone, and that was the thing that a lot of people said that they had an issue with. It's like it's cool when you have it open, but when it's closed, it just doesn't feel like a phone.
Although, I mean, if you're talking about, so the 4.3 aspect ratio it's more of like, an
old TV.
Right. Yeah. A tablet, sort of like designed for more reading. I have always had a problem with reading on smartphones. I mean, granted, every smartphone I've had is an iPhone, so there's that. But I've gone through different sizes, but it's always, I think it's 16:7 for the Pro Max now. And that, it's fine. I mean, in a pinch, I can certainly read on my phone, but I always gravitate back towards my desktop just because of all the real estate. Now, is the aspect ratio part of that problem? Does it just feel too narrow and long?
Yes.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, there's a whole study on how people perceive things, but in terms of readability, it's not just about how wide something is; it's also how deep it is or tall it is. So, how much of a book? If you could only read a book and it was only in strips, like a fortune cookie, where it's just a strip at a time, it'd be very tedious, because as we read, we tend to skip ahead psychologically, so we know what's coming up. It's hard to do that on a very wide but narrow screen. With the foldable, I can see it, what you're saying, Sarah, where it's more of a tablet, sort of like a Kindle e-reader experience, where you could start from the top and just naturally flow down to the bottom without having to actively keep it up, because people read often faster than they'll scroll, which is why most people hold their phones the vertical way so they can get through a whole thing. But it's really tiny, and if your eyes are old like mine, it gets kind of exhausting after a few paragraphs.
I will say this, Roger, as someone with the old dyslexia, I would love to read one line at a time. That would make my life so much easier. But here's the other thing that I think about when I think about this tablet. Apple has been known for not coming out with something first, but coming out with something that is so much better than what was first that you almost forget that Apple didn't invent the thing. And I'm wondering if with this metallic glass hinge, that the rumor is that it won't feel like a hinge. You'll open it up and it'll feel and look like it is just one sheet of glass with no bump in the middle. If that's the case, will Apple, make everyone who's using all these other devices from Motorola and using devices from Samsung say, what were you guys doing when that comes out? Because they've done that with other technology that, they weren't first, they came out with it later, and they just really put their foot in it and made it so much better than what was already available.
One of the things about the foldable iPhone, which I'm excited about, I want it to be real. I want to get my hands on it sooner than later, is this, does this speak to those of us, myself included, where I've used plenty of iPads in the past, but I don't currently have one, and I don't currently feel like I need one. I'm kind of either like, yeah, phone if I'm on the go, desktop or laptop if I'm at home. I'm good. We're good here. But the promise of this is you get a phone and you get a tablet. But for the people who never had an iPad or just don't care about that tablet experience, besides the sort of like, ooh, this is a fun party trick, do you actually want these two form factors in one device?
Part of what Apple used to be really good at has sort of clearly delineated features between all their products. And within the past decade, there has been sort of a blurring, right? Is a MacBook Air a tablet replacement, or is it a notebook because of its light and a lightweight size? And I think this is another one of those products that sort of straddles the product genres for Apple. There obviously is a demand for a foldable phone. I'm wondering if this will be it until it actually comes out to see what all the feature sets are. But I think people do like having more space on more screen real estate. And I think there's definitely a demand for it, because if there wasn't, Samsung, Motorola and Android, or Google wouldn't be making and marketing these products to the public. So,
but I think your point of, lines being blurred as far as, products go. I mean, you've got, people being like, so what is the difference between the MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro? At this point, and some of it is very personal. It's like, if you want, a certain kind of spec that can only be done on the Pro, then that's the computer for you. But it does make me wonder. It's like, well, if Apple was kind of like quietly retiring, the iPad line, then this might be an interesting way to keep it alive, but also make it part of the iPhone line. But I mean, by all accounts, the company is totally doubling down on iPads right now.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it if they killed the iPad mini, because this obviously slots in,
which they also did not.
Yeah, and so, it could be one of those overlapping moments, because Apple traditionally has had product categories overlap just until they cleared out the inventory of the old stuff, and then surprise, we're on this new thing, and forget about the rest. I definitely see this as sort of overlapping with the iPad mini, but I'm wondering if users will see it that way, right? Will the users be iPhone fanatics who say, I love all the extra space, I love what I can do, or will it be the iPad mini users like, hey, I love the fact that I can do 90% of what I did on the iPad mini, but now it's also my phone?
I don't see overlap with the iPad mini at all, other than the aspect ratio may be roughly the same. Here's the reason why. You can get an iPad mini for less than $2,000 what this thing costs. This is a really, really expensive device. So just from the standpoint of, I don't think that there are people who are saying, I'm willing to spend a $399, $499, or whatever the price of an iPad mini is, and so, but what, I love using this so much, I'm willing to spend an extra $2,000 on top of that so I can put it in my pocket and take it with me. I do believe that there is a market for people who want devices that they're going to give them the real estate of an iPad mini, but they could put it in their pocket and take it with them all the time. I have a tablet that I would say 90% of the time I would much rather use my tablet than use my phone if the tablet was with me. The problem is that I can't fold that tablet up and stick it in my pocket and carry it with me everywhere that I want.
Crossbody bag or something.
Literally, I've got to carry a messenger bag to carry with me, and I don't always have that. But I always have pockets. So if this solves that issue, then I could see it. For me, the form factor of the not the clamshells, but the phones that fold in half, I just
the
didn't
book
personally
folds.
like that. The fold. I didn't really like those, but this potentially could solve an issue for a lot of people.
Well, let's move on to passwords, shall we? So, Rob, Microsoft is rolling out a new account signing experience across most of its accounts, and it could be kind of a big deal for folks who use Microsoft products. Let's talk about it.
So absolutely, Sarah. Microsoft is initiating a new passwordless sign-in experience for over 1 billion user accounts with the focus on eliminating passwords. By the end of April, most Microsoft account users will see updated sign-in and sign-up flows for web and mobile apps built using Microsoft's Fluent 2 design language. The new design, optimized for a passwordless and passkey-first experience, retains enhancements made over the last few years, including the ability to completely remove passwords from the log-on process. So the thing here is that we should first say is that people might hear this and say, oh, I'm going to have to get rid of my passwords. You don't have to yet. Microsoft has not come out and said that, but they are definitely going to be a passwordless first type of operation going forward. So let's say you are creating a new account. They simplify some things for you. Users will now be able to sign up for a Microsoft account using an existing email address instead of creating a new one. It used to be that you would have to create like an Outlook.com account or a Hotmail account or something like that. Now you can just use whatever email address that you have. And this is going to eliminate the need for separate accounts for signing up, unless, of course, you're signing up specifically through Outlook. And, of course, you're going to get your Outlook email there. For security and recoverability benefits, you're going to be able to do things like use a familiar email address. This is a problem. People will literally sign an account up and forget the password that they create for it in the moment that they're creating the account and kind of get locked out of it and have to jump through a ton of hoops to get back to it. The fact that you're using your own email address is going to solve some of those problems. And then the other thing, and this is the big thing here, is that it's going to reduce the risk of forgotten passwords or weak and easily guessed credentials because they're trying to get you not to use those in the first place. What they really want you to do is to create a passkey. That is what Microsoft and pretty much most everyone else has decided is going to be the thing that replaces passwords. That is where absolutely Microsoft is focusing. So what you'll do is instead of actually ever having to create a password, you'll use your email address. It'll send you a one-time code that you will use to authenticate. And then from there, you'll actually use your passcode where you will use your fingerprint or facial recognition, eye recognition, whatever type of authentication that you may have on your device with you that will allow you to authenticate. So I wanted to just kind of get your guys' take on this. Passkey seems like it is going to be the next thing. It is so much more secure than passwords ever have been. And, you've got Microsoft's talking about moving 1 billion accounts over to this in the next month. So where do you guys stand?
Well, as somebody who I use LastPass for password management, although I also have been using the Passwords app on macOS, so that's a whole other story. But yes, password management, I get it. There's no way I can remember the stuff. I'm not going to write it all down. It's that's the way that I do things. That said, just the other day, I was logging into my bank account. Just the bank I've used since I was in 6th grade, same bank. And it was like, yep, not the right password. And it's like, well, what? Okay, let me just change it then. I forgot my password, and I had to go through that whole thing, which is, the better part of 10, 15 minutes to get it all set up again and get the weird password that somehow wasn't working out of LastPass, et cetera, et cetera. It's cumbersome. It is. And I'm not even talking about it being, something that somebody might get into, because of course that is also a huge issue. Passwords that aren't super secure are they're liable to get intercepted by somebody that you don't want to know your information. But people do try that all the time, and our information gets sold and shared all the time. The passkey experience feels like the wave. It does. I know that, for a lot of people, they're like, I don't know, the thumb or the Face ID or having a thumb drive, in some cases, where, that's how you get into a system. It's going to take some time to get used to that. But I feel like the password as the second step, if for some reason the first step fails, I think we're just going to be so much happier with this.
I mean, I think it's just the rollout, but also the user experience, right? Because as long as people don't feel that it's inordinately difficult or very hassly, they'll do it. But but it has to be a very smooth and very straightforward process where it isn't too confusing. Because if people you're going to have people move out of a system that they've used for decades onto a new system, you want to make sure that transition period is very smooth as possible, because any hint of sort of friction, and a lot of people just kind of raise their hands like, why do I have to do this? Why don't I just do something else? And ultimately it's on Microsoft to make sure that experience is as good as it possibly can. Because it's weird because Google does allow you to do a passkey system through Chrome as well as its through its Google account system. So for example, if I log into one of the DTNS accounts, I can just do it as an authenticated account. All I have to do is just, depending on the machine you're using, for example, on the MacBook, it's a fingerprint or password, and it bypasses a lot of the hassle of trying to remember a password or using a password manager. For phone apps on my phone, I just use kind of the finger biometric passcode. So banking, credit card, PayPal, whatever, it's so much faster to stick the finger on there, get it, don't have to remember anything. That's a positive experience, right? You just do that, and assuming your phone isn't too hesitant to recognize your fingerprint, it's a pretty smooth experience. Better than trying to remember what your password is and keeping a line of 20 people at Costco waiting for 10 minutes because you forgot it.
Mm-hmm.
The big issue here is that passcodes are not hard to use. They're actually quite easy to use. What they are is significantly different than passwords. And humans by nature are just resistant to any type of change whatsoever. So I think what has been happening for the last 2, 3, maybe even a little longer years is that, well, you can use a passcode if you'd like to. You can go to Best Buy and you can use one. You can go to Amazon, you can use one. You can use one in OnePass. You can use passcodes a lot of places now. And I think people are getting used to the idea, I can do this a different way. When you see Microsoft say that we're going to do this for 1 billion user accounts, that's going to be a massive way. There are a lot of people who log into a lot of stuff that is controlled by a Microsoft account. And now the default way that you do that is just going to be passcodes. As I said earlier, you will be able to still use a password, but when you're creating an account, they're going to want you to create the account using a passcode. You will have to click something else to use a password. So I think that this is still we're still years out from mass adoption. The Microsofts of the world, the Amazons of the world, the big giant companies, they've got the money that they can go and do this. Where I think you're going to still see a lot of people holding off is when it's a small mom and pop and they're just using a website. Until the website software that they're using updates to passcodes, you're going to be using passwords the way that you've always used them. And we're still probably a few years from those things getting to the point to where they are, where there's mass adoption on all the other things that can be out there.
I think you sort of kind of highlighted the issue, and I think this is going to be an ongoing thing. You're going to have a 2-track sort of system. You'll have very well-heeled companies that can implement and roll out, these passcode features, and then you'll have sort of your secondary group of people that might not be able to do that. Now, they could rely on a third-party solution, and that's where you find some of your medium-sized small businesses. But people are just starting up. They might just rely on that up until the websites that they run on force them to change as well, right? How long were GeoCity websites still rolling around after everyone migrated to like a little more sophisticated,
for a while?
Yeah, because people, it's like, well, I don't. If I move, I have to pay, and then I have to do all this other stuff on my end, and people still seem to come in a website. So
Blogger still exists. Yeah. You could still go to Blogger, I think. So I mean, it's like stuff sticks around for a long time because people don't want to change.
And I think what you'll see is high priority stuff, things that deal with finances, like your credit card, your bank, your Equifax, anything. But the the less, sensitive stuff's like, oh, my password to my Little League site. Someone gets it, whatever. But, I mean,
Well,
this is the thing.
But then if that password is reused somewhere else, I mean, we all know how this goes.
But that's the thing. You're going to have like this weird sort of scale where the closer you are to the center of a bullseye, imagine a bullseye, the center is like the most secure stuff. The farther you get away from it, the less people are going to care. And I think only the critical stuff, people are like, well, do you have a passcode or passkey system that allows me to securely log in, never have to worry about it? And then as you get out, oh, it's my reward points for Starbucks. I get a free latte. I don't care. I'll just reuse a password. Because people are like that.
Also, I mean, some people would say, no, never do that. And that's what password managers are for. And I mean, every time I log into LastPass, it's like, you have like a password that's used 100 times. I'm like, what password would that even be? Yeah. It's a bunch of stuff that I don't go to. Maybe I logged in once in like 2007 because I was like researching a story. But the less of that kind of just slop that ends up following you everywhere online, I think is the promise of passkeys.
I understand that, but I also understand human nature, and I figure people will keep the slop for the stuff that doesn't really matter to the core facet of their lives, like their finances. But again, if you're on the penny saver club and someone's like, oh, I'm going to use grandma's name.
Microsoft understands human nature too. So Microsoft is making sure that they want everybody to know that Microsoft account authentication redesign does not currently affect Microsoft Entra accounts. So these are like your work accounts and your school accounts. They're not making the changes there. No, they're not saying that they won't make them eventually. In fact, they say that we'll learn from the other places where we're making these changes, and then maybe we can take some of that knowledge and implement them there. But they are not changing these for school accounts. They are not changing these for work accounts at this time.
Just in case anybody wants to dox me, my password has never been Dorothy123. It's my grandma's name. So do your best.
Wow. So you come from a long line of 1-2-3s.
If you want us to talk more about passwords on the show or anything at all, a great way to let us know is in our subreddit. We follow that every day, so we know what you care about and what you want us to talk about. Submit stories and vote on them at reddit.com/r/dailytechnewsshow. We don't cover politics here on DTNS Live unless we feel the story is fully tech first. And, this is one of those stories. So, Roger, what's the latest?
So, multiple sources familiar with the matter have told Wired that the Department of Government Efficiency, better known as DOGE, is forming a team to migrate the U.S.'s Social Security Administration computer systems off its legacy code, based mostly on COBOL and assembly, to a more modern language. Now, what's raising eyebrows is that the time frame for this projected project is a few months, at least initial, from early understanding of it. And it's one of those things where I actually I do agree that a lot of the code base that a lot of government systems run on are a little old and a little archaic and inflexible. But there's a lot of it, and it's entrenched, and it supports a lot of things. And anytime you want to move something off a legacy code base onto a new one, being a few months seems a little short. I typically think maybe a couple of years, and that's being generous, especially when you deal with the Social Security Administration, which currently doles out benefits to 65 million people. I mean, that does not. I can see you moving maybe like your local e-retailer over to a new system in 2 months, but I don't know. That's 65 million people. And you run the risk of, if you have any issues because of these systems that are so old, you don't know what else it impacts. And you could have what they call a cascading failure, where just one minor change, one minor tweak will affect everything else downstream from that. And so I was wondering, maybe if any of you have ever dealt with, perhaps Rob, been in a situation where you've had a company need to move over from one system to another.
So my very, very first job in IT right after college, I was actually debugging Fortran for Y2K. This was in like 96. And so think about that. We were thinking about what was going to happen
4 years
in
before.
2000,
Yeah.
4 years before. Now, the Y2K issue affected all PCs everywhere, not just the Social Security Administration. So from a scale standpoint, the social security is a smaller problem. But here is the issue. We're talking about COBOL. This is a very, very old programming language that a lot of people who are just getting into programming right now may not know it. There are resource issues at the Social Security Administration right now. They don't have nearly as many people as they had just a few months ago. So the problem here is that they're saying that they want to do this. I think that that's a good thing. Ultimately, we do want to get off of these old legacy operating systems, operating systems and programming languages. We absolutely want to do that. But to say you're going to do it in a few months, I am not a betting person, but if I could bet on this, whatever the odds are, I'm going to bet against. I'm going to take it's going to be over a few months, because it's going to take them a few years. When I say a few years, I'm talking 3 to 6 years at a minimum to get this done. There's no way that they could possibly ever do this in just a few months. It's just simply not possible because of so many linked systems, and we are talking about the income that many of our seniors are relying on. So you can't just throw something out and it's a bug and okay, we'll just fix it next week and somebody misses their check. Right. That literally wreaks havoc for the country on a massive scale when you're talking about the number of people who are getting Social Security checks every week or every month. So I did my best not to laugh, Roger, while you were doing the read. There's no way possible that they could get this done in a few months. It simply just cannot happen.
I mean, what are we talking? Like, is somebody physically going to all of the computers in the Social Security Administration and being like, okay, and we're good. All right, let's go to the next one.
Well, I mean, it's really the back end, right? It's the entire system. And one of the reasons why, I mean, it's not like the Social Security Administration hasn't tried this before. They actually tried it, and then the pandemic rolled around and priorities shifted. But there's the reason why so many systems still sit on it is because, one, everyone is afraid to change too much of it where it disables big chunks of the system and the database and the way it currently works. Two, as Rob said, a lot of the people that used to know COBOL, or at least, and I'm surprised at assembly, because assembly is very hardware specific. So if you move this over to another system, actually that's one reason why you want to move over. It's because assembly is hardware specific, and so as you move and switch over to new machines and stuff, things get a little wonky. But I would imagine that they would want to try to do maybe a trial with something smaller, a little less ambitious, and then see if that works before they, and I assume this is what they're planning, before they move over to the entire system. But at the same time, it's a working system, right? It's like trying to fix a train while it's still moving. You need to make sure that, okay, this wheel's still turning. How do we get the wheel off and replace it with another wheel without stopping the train? And so at some point they might have to turn off this system and shut it down to bring the other one online, unless they can get the other one and sort of transition over in that period. Not sure how that would be done.
Yeah, I would imagine they're going to probably build a completely separate system that'll sit right next to the system they have right now and run it in parallel. And you would even need to do that for months before you could turn the old system off, just to make sure you don't have any issues where you want things going in both places. But you also are going to run into, and this is why I'm so adamant that it will take way longer than months to get this done, is because the knee bone is connected to the thigh bone and the thigh bone is connected to the hip bone. You're going to find those kind of issues as you are going through doing all the regression testing. You don't know it until you know it, because these systems are very, very old and they've got a lot of duct tape and glue in them. So I applaud the effort to get off of this old antiquated system that tends to work, but it's going to take a while. They are orders of magnitude short on the amount of time it's going to take to get this done.
and it's, and I will stress to people, COBOL is like one of the first, not the first, but one of the first, like, modern programming languages that, at least that I was introduced to in programming back in the early 90s before I went into C++. But created by, co-created by Grace Hopper back in the 1950s. So it's been around for a while, and the government was, at least the DOD, was very adamant that all contractors use this language because it was an internal one. But I do think that trying to overhaul, which I agree, I mean, I actually fully agree with the overhaul of the Social Security systems because they are so old, but at the same time, it is something that requires a lot of delicate touch. And, you can't just kick it out the window and then just pick up the pieces and reassemble something better because a lot of people are dependent on it. And I'm curious to know how they articulate or what they plan or envision plan on making this work.
People don't probably think of it this way, but when you're talking about Social Security, you literally have lives on the line with this. Someone not getting their Social Security check could literally cost power could get turned off, rent doesn't get paid, so food isn't purchased. You literally are talking about people's lives, so they need to make sure that when they do this, that it is absolutely done correctly and it does not cause there will be problems when they switch over to it, but they have to make sure that those problems are not catastrophic issues that they can work around and still get those checks out to people on time.
Well, it is Friday, everyone. We're glad to have Roger back because one of the best things is our Friday quizzes, and it is time for another quiz to take us into the weekend. Roger, what are we doing this week?
I do indeed. Earlier in the week, I know you guys talked about 23andMe going through a little financial headwinds, storm, hurricane, and it's demonstrated that even globally recognized tech companies can go bust. So in keeping with that theme, I have generated a quiz about long since gone tech companies or outfits that went belly up and how much we actually remember who they are.
Okay. All right. So, and we just yell out our answer.
Yeah, there's only two of you. So, it's a 50-50.
It's me against Rob. All right. Fight to the death.
Number one, this online seller of pet supplies included food and accessories and was founded in 1998. However, was never able to turn a profit and folded in November 2000. It also had a sock puppet for a mascot.
I know. Pets.com.
Yes, pets.com.
Yeah.
Pets.com, I remember clearly being one of the first wave where a lot of people were excited about the internet being this thing, and they're on the internet, so let's invest money into it.
Well, it was like that was also Webvan, right? Like that it was that wave of like, we can do stuff online.
It's the first generation of .com or web bubbles, right? It was that a lot of companies, and Pets.com unfortunately was never able to make the numbers work, right? They sold stuff online, but they couldn't make a profit, right? Their overhead was always greater than the money profit that they took in, or revenue that they took in. It was also
before its time, I suppose. I mean, look at Chewy.com. It's like that's where I get all my dog and cat food. They work with veterinarians for stuff that needs to be prescribed. All the toys. I mean, this is a model that works today.
Well, it works because companies like Pets.com showed you where all the potholes and all the cracks in the sidewalk were, right? People now understand, okay, to make money, we need to have people order X amount of dollars worth of goods before we ship it out. And if you want free shipping and stuff, you have to order like an X dollar amount of goods. There's all these things that they put in, and then they source like, okay, we can definitely make money on these Chewy, products, but on this specialty stuff, we either have to charge more or not carry it. And so,
and then they do the whole subscribe and save model.
Yes, exactly.
Which Amazon does as well. It's sort of like you might get like a couple dollars off, and sure, that'll matter to you in the long run, but it retains you to us.
Yeah, it's a Costco Amazon model. And I will add, this is kind of the annoying period where everyone had to have a new kind of cute either puppet mascot or some sort of hand, like just Remember, what was it? The Woot.com. It had the monkey.
And it was like made of yarn.
There was just a lot of it. I think it all stemmed out of
all the cutesy names too. It's like like drop the consonants or drop the vowels rather. It's like we still do that to some extent, but that was just what everybody did at one point.
And it was I don't know. It wasn't aesthetically. It wasn't the most pleasing to my eyes. All right, question number 2. This company started in March 1998. It was a bike courier service that offered various items like convenience food, drugstore items, and video game and movie rentals online. And they promised delivery within an hour with no delivery charge and no minimum order. Amazon invested $60 million, receiving a 31% stake in the company. Unfortunately, it was this company is one of the casualties of the dot-com bubble and shut down in 2001.
I don't know.
Remember?
A bike courier service?
I mean, I feel like we have these now, but I'm like,
yes,
what
we do.
Was that one from 1998?
Remember, you said Webvan, and it came out right when everyone was questioning the financials of Webvan. Like, how's Webvan? Remember?
I don't know.
It makes you feel warm, and when you're sitting on your couch,
cozy.
You feel warm. Yes.
Cozy. Oh my gosh.
You say the name
Cozy.
and I still don't even recognize it.
Cosmo.
Oh, okay.
Cosmo.
I was thinking Cosmo.
Cosmo.
I think you
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Cozy. You're right, Sarah.
Sorry.
Like,
but I was saying Cozy Cosmo.
I think Cozy.com
I don't know why.
is still something that is live right now. Cosmo. And the thing that really kind of that really did them in is that there was no minimum order. You need a big pen. They will get you a big pen and deliver it. Like the well, and no delivery charge. It's like that. How is that ever going to scale?
Well, and that's the thing is,
first of all, you have to have somebody on a bike.
There was. I mean, during that period, there was definitely a time of people just like, we need to get people to sign up, so let's offer them the moon. And then the idea was, as the business grew and became more mature, you could start adding those bits in, but they burned through their money quicker than they could build the business, unfortunately. But there's services out like food delivery, but also other courier service that do this now. But now they have minimum orders. You need to order $10 minimum, and they have subscription, plans where if you subscribe, you get X amount of deliveries free of charge. You just pay for the order. You don't have to pay for the delivery. And so a lot of companies have become more sophisticated in understanding that you have to earn money and you just can't live on investor cash.
Right. Oh, Cosmo. Yep.
Sorry.
I barely remember you, but yes. Sorry for your loss.
Question 3. This company tried to compete with Toys R Us and Walmart and went online as a online toy retailer starting in 1997 and shot up in public value after going in 1990 when they went public. Was forced into bankruptcy in 2001 after the dot-com bubble burst. In the end, its assets were acquired by KB Toys until that company also went under. And the domain was eventually acquired by Toys R Us.
What is it? I don't know.
etoys.com.
Yes.
eToys.
I actually used that website. Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember
by a person with small children at the time, I guess.
No. Remember they used to have those. Was it eToys? Right? They used to use that "Over the Rainbow" song. Somewhere over the rainbow.
I don't remember
as part
eToys
of their,
at all.
As like part of their jingle when they showed up their eToys logo. Or am I thinking of a different
Isn't
company?
Toys R Us also gone now?
Yes, but the Toys R Us that exists, I think, is held by a holding company, either that or an investment firm, and they just use.
And there are just a few left. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just Toys R Us. Like there are no at least from what I understand, no standalone Toys R Us's.
Yeah.
So maybe the one in New York, but yeah, they have ToysRUs.com.
There was I don't even remember where there was a Toys R Us when I was growing up, like not in my town, but somewhere that was like accessible. And my mom was like, nope, we're not going in there because you're going to lose your mind. It's going to get, there's going to be tears because you're not going to, you're going to want like all these things. No Toys R Us. And I was like, that's the mecca for a child. Toys R Us. That's all I want to do.
It's weird. Oh, go ahead. Sorry,
I was
Rob.
gonna say, I remember I lived in Columbia, Maryland, and there was a Toys R Us. It was close to the mall that was not too far from where we lived. And my folks, they would like go shopping, and I was like fifth grade, so they could drop me off at Toys R Us for like an hour, and I would just be mesmerized, just walking up and down every single aisle, playing with every toy that I could touch. While they were doing their shopping over at the mall, and then come back and pick me up, and I would still be, I'm not ready to go yet. I didn't get to aisle 27 yet. So I loved the Toys R Us.
Well, that was the best part of it. It was so big. Right? It was
Yeah.
like Costco before Costco, where it's like,
Costco
it's just
full of
toys. So many
Everywhere.
toys.
Toys R Us had a really good model, but like as the 21st century came close, they were unable to kind of shift over to that, or not just online selling, but also just the fact that kids were playing less of the traditional toys that were so popular back in the 80s and 90s, right? And so what's interesting now is a lot of the online toy retailers now are more pitched toward genre specific things like action figures or collectible cards or things of that nature. And it's like Toys R Us needed to be hyper focused, and it was too broad to do that. All right. Question number 4. Before NVIDIA became the byword for PC and later AI GPUs, this company pioneered 3D gaming on PCs via its hardware 3D accelerators. Its loss of technical competitiveness in the early 2000s forced it to bankruptcy in 2002, and NVIDIA acquired all of its IP.
This
I have, I have two guesses. I don't think it's Silicon Graphics. Is it 3D effects?
Yes, it is 3DFX. Remember? They were the 3D company before all the. I mean, there were others, but they were the ones that cemented 3D gaming and 3D graphics on PC platform. And they used to have these really funny ads where they would talk about how our chips could run 1 billion calculations per second. We could feed more people. We could develop new advanced healthcare systems. But we said, no, we'd rather just play video games instead. And that was their whole kind of TV ad for 3DFX. What's interesting is toward the end, they went away from having separate vendors sell their products, and they decided to make their own boards. Unfortunately, they could not keep up with NVIDIA, who was actually just stomping the market with their GeForce 256 and their later video cards. And here we are. All right, number 5. I'm going to give you the company's name. iOmega rose to fame and fortune on its zip disk removable disk storage systems in the mid-90s, followed by the higher capacity Jazz drive. However, the availability of expensive writable CDs and this read-write flaw that spurred a class action lawsuit would cause this company's demise.
Is it iOmega?
Well, no, iOmega is the company, but what was the flaw? Along with the fact that CDRs were
this read or write flaw that caused the company's decline
to go under.
I know this one too. So basically, when those drives, when they ran for a while, they would emit a clicking sound, and that clicking sound actually adversely affected the read write. So the drive running after it would run for a minute and get warm, the clicking noise would prevent it from actually doing proper read write.
It was called the click of
death.
Death.
Yeah,
the click of death. Yes, it was actually a symptom that the system could no longer load, or the heads were no longer lighted, could no longer start reading the disk. And I was part of that class action lawsuit.
So was I. Yeah.
Because I signed up. I didn't sign up. They just included me, and I got my $5 in the mail, even though my zip drives all still worked. The 90s. All right, question number 6. This company created the concept of the PC-compatible market in the early 80s when it managed to clean room reverse engineer the IBM PC's BIOS. It found success making a luggable PC compatible and before moving on to desktop PCs. In the late 90s, it moved into PDAs, but it struggled against lower cost PC makers like Dell. In 2002, it merged with HP, and in 2013, its brand name was discontinued by HP.
Oh, I know this.
What's the first letter?
Yeah.
Compact?
You got it. Compact.
Compact. That wasn't what I was going to say.
I was thinking
something
Tandy
else.
till I saw the C.
Uh-huh.
Wait,
What?
you saw the C, the
where?
Tandy. I was
Where'd it
doing
go?
this. I was
No.
doing this.
I was thinking
Oh,
Tandy. That's
I
why I said
wasn't
tell me the
looking at
first
the
letter.
video. Gosh,
So when you
darn
did the
it.
C, that's when I said, oh, it's not
You guys
Tandy
are
clearly.
cheating. Fine.
Bonus points for the name of the TV show that was inspired by Compact's history.
Oh.
I think it was on AMC.
Inspired by Comcast.
Compact.
Yeah, Comcast.
Oh, it's set back in the. Oh, I
Yeah.
know the show you're talking about. I have no idea what the name of it is.
It's
yeah.
Halt and Catch Fire.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I never watched that. People
yeah.
love that show though.
It is. It's
on,
a weird
it's
amalgam.
on one of my lists, my long lists of like really good series that people love.
It's slow going, but it's actually pretty on the nose what happened with Compaq and IBM, because IBM came in with a litany of lawyers, and when they clean roomed the BIOS, they had to have one of the lawyers sit in that entire process to make sure they weren't infringing on any IP. All right, number 7. This short-form streaming service was founded in August 2018 as New TV. While the company had a very short lifespan, it managed to raise $1.75 billion from investors.
I know
Its
this
idea of producing short-form content for mobile phones at a vertical aspect ratio was seen as a bold, perhaps too far ahead of its time premise. What's the name of the company?
Quibi.
Yeah. Bonus points. What does Quibi stand for?
That I don't know. What
No
does
clue.
Quibi stand for? Like quick, uninterrupted internet. The I don't know.
Quick Bites.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Quick Bites.
It wasn't
big
actually an acronym. Got it. Quick Bites. Yeah, the Quibi thing. I knew some people who worked there, and they're very, very excited out of the gate, and very, very quickly within about a year, it was not clicking with the world.
And what's funny is that TikTok sort of just like, vertical video format. People watch this, and they did, and they still do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Quibi. I actually, it was just too early. I think there was
too
one
short.
of the movies. It was like, I think it was Liam Hemsworth, and it was like this, like he was a spy and I can't even remember what it was, but it was cool content that only lasted for like 2-3 minutes per episode. But yeah, it was before its time.
All right, question number 8. Started in 2010 by a former Facebook executive and the creator of Napster, this social network enabled photo sharing messaging service for mobile devices. Users would update their stream on the platform by posting photos and, of course, adding tags for people, places, and things. Now, initially, when it started, it only allowed a maximum of 50
Path.com.
other people. Yeah. All right, he got Path. It is.
That
Sean
argument-
Fanning started Path.
Yeah.
I did
Path
not
was
know
would
that.
be
There was 3 people that felt he was one of them. The other one
okay.
was Dave Morin. Yeah.
I think Path could make a comeback today because I loved it back then. I was alone, but I love the fact that it was 50. I think they ended up going up to maybe 100 and maybe even 200 people in the social network. But I would love a whole social media platform where only 100 folks or 50 folks could be a member of it, because it's like I would actually use that and pay attention to those people.
I mean, it got shut down after it was acquired by the South Korean messaging company Dal Kakao in 2015, shut down in 2018. But I mean, it's there's something there to a lot of these. The problem is they were either just pieces of the whole or they were just too early for the market.
Well, and also, the thing with Path was I lived in San Francisco at the time, so you can imagine like everybody had a Path account, right? And it was like, getting, your 50 people, you think like, who even has 50 friends? But when you're talking about social networks, this is something that, it kind of matters to you. Like, what do you want to see? And people would be more, just upfront about what's going on in their lives. And that was the promise of something like this, is like, if I say that on Twitter, then the world knows that I have a stomachache today. But, maybe my Path friends could get a little bit more context, and, maybe there's a photo that I want to share. This is before ephemeral, photo everything. Something that I don't want the world to see, but I do want my friends to see. And the problem with Path, I think, is that it got to the point where it was like people were just sort of like screenshotting and then sharing stuff.
It's just people felt compelled to do it even if they didn't want to.
Right. And then you get this sort of like, well, this is a farce. It's not really private, because all this stuff is actually public. And then it just got weird. I remember at one point just being like, I don't know, this feels toxic. I don't want to be here anymore.
There was a lot of attempts. There was a lot of attempts at doing social media differently, and this is one of them.
Indeed. And honestly, I'm with you, Rob. If Path came back today, I don't know, even if it acted the way that it did, but maybe with just some more privacy settings, I'd be into it.
Yeah, definitely.
Question number 9. Before cryptocurrency, there was a company trying to establish a currency unique to internet merchants as a reward program. Sort of think like frequent flyer miles, but for different online e-tailers. So instead of paying for things with dollars, euros, or yen, you would use this company's credits. Now, Whoopi Goldberg was a spokesperson for this, and when the company went bust in 2001, the credits that people already bought or earned became worthless and unusable.
Oh, gosh. Well,
what was the name?
This is not a company I used because I would have been mad and I would have remembered this better. I don't remember Whoopi Goldberg being the face of any sort of pre-crypto company.
I do. I remember I have no idea what this thing is called, but I remember it was a commercial where she's doing her thing in a store and she's talking to some guy about it. And the thing that I remember from the commercial is that he said that he was going to buy some of whatever this thing that she was selling was for his mommy. And she was like, you still call your mother mommy? And everyone in the office that I worked in, we started you still call your mother mommy? And it's like, so that's why I remember what it was. I have no idea what that service is called, though.
Flues.
Still wouldn't have known it. She telling me about it.
That was not one I was going to get.
It is definitely, there's Whoopi Goldberg. Father still knows best. It was a very interesting attempt to kind of monetize a frequent flyer mile style like setup. But as you can see, a lot of things during the .com bubble got a lot of money for no reason. All right, last question. Number 10. This social media company launched in 2008 after $40 million in investor funding. Now, what it did differently as a social network was it allowed people to had a social ranking system that let users gauge their online reputation and potential reach. It was acquired in 2014 before shutting down in 2018. What is the name of this company?
Oh, gosh. 2008 it launched?
It allowed you to get a gauge of your social ranking on the platform.
Oh, yeah. These sorts of companies never work out because people end up just getting very upset about them. But yes, I remember this. It wasn't secret because that was later. That was a mobile thing. What was oh my gosh. It was, Clout.
Yes, Claude it is.
Oh,
Cloud with a K.
Cloud score.
Yeah.
Yep, I remember that.
And there was a time where ranking people this was the age of like, am I hot or not? And all the other like just.
Oh, totally.
You gotta assign a score to somebody, whether it's their actions, their appearance, or their social clout.
It's funny how quickly users will turn on this sort of thing where it's like, clout score, very important. And then like the next day it's like, lol, clout. Who's using that? How stupid.
And it just really underscored for me how many people came into Silicon Valley with a very kind of junior high mentality, because a lot of these things are what you did in junior high.
Well, look at Facebook. Yeah. I mean, Facebook started as sort of a let's rank your classmates type thing. It's a very different company now, but
is it?
They all started somewhere. Well, yeah. I mean, your mileage may vary.
It's trying to get back to that now. We talk about a story about that. It's trying to get back to its roots of.
So both of you tied because I didn't keep count.
Oh, awesome.
Yay, we both
Yay,
win.
everyone wins.
Yeah.
You know
Except
what?
for those
That's
people.
the
they
kind of
lost.
fratty quiz I like.
Yeah.
We're co-winners. We're on the podium together, Rob.
Yeah, we were team tagging it.
You guys
Yeah.
have good clout.
We really do. We really have good clout. If you also have good clout or remember clout or anything in between, do send in your comments to anything we talk about on the show. Any quizzes you might want to see on a future show. Maybe you've got like a fun idea for Roger. Let us know. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com.
And folks, you've been submitting show titles over at dtns.showbot.tv. So let's jump in and see some of the submissions that we've got. So I'm just going to start right here at the top. We've got None Shall Password by G. James B.
I like that one. None shall password.
Dorothy 123 by Stealth Dave.
I'm telling you guys, it's not any of my passwords. Just probably what my grandma would have named everything.
The Lords of Cobol, also by G. James B.
That's a great reference to the original Battlestar Galactica series.
Overlap with the iPad Mini by Zoe Brings Bacon. A New Way to Password by GPEG84. And Sarah, what did we decide to go with this week?
Well, Rob, I'm glad you asked. We went with None Shall Password from G. James B. because why not? That's, anytime we can do that, it's a fun day, indeed.
Absolutely.
Well, Roger, we have had quite a week. I know you were out until today, and very glad to have you back. But we have had all sorts of, new patrons, a variety of raises every day. So what do we got today?
No patron raises today, but I'd still like to shout out all the patrons that continue to support us, because without you, the show would not be able to happen. But I do want to also give a nod to everyone in the Twitch chat that has been supporting us. We have C-Spawn, who used 40 bits, to Chersan, Roy Selly, 1980, who followed us, Pele Glendale cheered us on with 50 bits, Zoe Briggs Bacon also cheered us on with bits, and PC Milesy cheered us on with 50 bits, and then Can2 followed us. Can2, so should you. Follow us on Twitch.
Thank you to everybody who supports us.
And I'd like to give a shout out to Laminar Rainbow, who just slid under the radar with the $2.99 super sticker. Thank you so much.
Laminar, you're always in chat, and good to see you, and thank you so much. Yes, we appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for the support. We couldn't do the show without you. We truly could not. Speaking of shows, if you want some good Tom Merritt action, Tom's Top 5 is a great way to you get Tom breaking down the top 5 things you need to know about technology, and he gets really creative. This is a great show. This week, Tom is counting down the top 5 Microsoft fails that you forgot about. This almost sounds like a Roger quiz, doesn't it? You can catch it at Daily Tech News Show on TikTok and Instagram, and at youtube.com/Daily Tech News Show. Just a reminder, we do the show live. If you're watching or listening live, you already know this, but for everybody else, you can watch us live Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 2000 UTC, and you can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. We'll be back on Monday with Justin Robert Young joining us. This week's episodes of Daily Tech News Show Live were created by the following people. Producer and host Sarah Lane. Host Tom Merritt. Host Rob Dunewood. Producer Roger Chang. Video producer Joe Coons. Producer at large and very much a producer this week, Anthony Lemos. Social media producer and moderator Zoe Detterdine. Our mods, Beatmaster, W. Scottus One, BioCow, Capt Kipper, Steve Guadarrama, Paul Reese, Matthew J. Stevens, aka Gadget Virtuoso, and JD Galloway. Mod and video hosting by Dan Christensen. Music provided by Martin Bell and Dan Luders. Art by Len Peralta. Acast ad support from Tatiana Matias. Patreon support from Tom McNeil. Contributors on this week's show include Nika Monford and Scott Johnson. And thank you to all our patrons who make the show possible.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.